I am here in Midtown Carmel on a cool Tuesday morning, so it's not very crowded right now, but if you were to come back this evening or this weekend, this place would be absolutely crawling with people, absolutely happening. So this is one of those places in Carmel, along with Midtown, this whole part of downtown Carmel, and to the north, the Arts and Design District. And then if you go just to the south, you get into City Center, the whole of downtown Carmel. This is a place where people want to be close to it. And close can mean a number of different things. So you could walk here. Of course, you could live close enough to where you can do that. Or you could live, let's say, 10 minutes away or 15 minutes away, something like that. So close is how you define it. But if you want to be close, there are a few hurdles or a few things. Oh, there's a helicopter flying over. Super loud, Black Hawk helicopter. Crazy. There are a few things that I've found over the years that become hurdles, or not necessarily hurdles that you can't get over, but these are the three things that usually constrain people with finding that place, that perfect house or condo or townhome, whatever it is, close to an area like this, or at least close by their definition. So we're gonna go through those three common things that I found over the years in this video. Stay tuned. So number one, I think, would be the most obvious one, and that would be price. I don't think at this point it's really any secret to a lot of people that Carmel is pretty expensive. When you compare it to a lot of the other cities around Indianapolis, there are other parts that are just as expensive, and even in Indianapolis itself, there are certainly homes and areas that are just as expensive as Carmel. But Carmel as a whole, the entire city, the average price point here is definitely higher. So the closer that you get to a place like this, Midtown or the Arts and Design District or City Center just to the south, I'm actually gonna be walking in that direction now. It's not like you can't find something affordable in here, because you can, and affordable is a subjective thing anyway. What's affordable to one is not affordable to all. But you can find some of the less expensive places here, but are they as numerous? No, they're not. They're far, far fewer. It's not very dense where you could find a place near here, let's say walking distance, under $500,000. And then if you're talking what type of home, is it a single family home, a townhome, or a condo? Well, then of course it's gonna narrow it quite a bit. And as you get really close into this area here, the walkable places, like if you were to live in this building right here behind me, that is definitely walkable. It's looking right out over the top of all of this, which is pretty sweet. I mean, you're either gonna have apartments through here or condos, and that's not gonna fit everybody's lifestyle. Not everybody wants that particular kind of building or that particular kind of living situation. So you have to expand out. And so you might get 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away, and you're still gonna notice that the prices for the most part all across Carmel are, I guess if you're looking right at Carmel, you may not notice, but when you start comparing it, like this house, whenever I look over in Westfield, or if I look in Fishers, or if I look in Noblesville, wow, it just seems to be consistently less expensive. That's a given, definitely. So you're gonna find that Carmel is certainly more expensive, and that oftentimes is a hurdle unless you just have an unlimited budget, which actually is an issue when you get into number two here in just a second. That, look, if you have $600,000 to spend, you're gonna have some choices in Carmel. I don't know if they're gonna be exactly close enough to downtown Carmel, because again, that comes back to what you define as actually being close enough. Is 10 minutes close enough? Is 15 minutes close enough? Because really, if you have that address with Carmel as the city in your address, then it's pretty hard to get really more than 15 minutes away. Even if you go as far west as you possibly can in Carmel, all the way over to the border of Zionsville. That's where you're going to be stretching that 15 minutes. And then if you go all the way to the east, over close to the White River, which is the border of Carmel and Fishers, you're really going to be stretching it to push it much more than 15 minutes. And you go north and south, Carmel's not that deep mileage-wise from the southern border to the northern border. So in that respect, you really are almost always under 15 minutes from this area. So anywhere in Carmel, in my mind, you're relatively close. You're just going to run into that issue of, okay, my spend is $600K at most. Your choices are going to start to be pretty limited, especially if you're looking for a single family home, which is what a lot of people are looking for. Just not going to have as many choices. Number two is that it's pretty surprising to people oftentimes who have a higher budget and they might be downsizing. We've talked to a number of people over the past few years that, hey, we've got $800,000 to spend, or we've got $1 million to spend, or sometimes even a little bit more than that. But we right now live in this 4,000 or 5,000 square foot house, and our kids are out, or we do have kids and we just don't use all this space. We don't want it. So we're looking at Carmel, and that's our budget, $800,000 or $1 million. Well, in this case, number two, oftentimes it's good news because you don't have to spend that much, but the tougher part is that if you do spend that much, and sometimes even if you come down to $700,000 or let's say $600,000 and sometimes even $500,000, a lot of the homes are still really big. So if they want to be at 2,000 square feet or 2,500 square feet, something like that, it's amazing how narrowed, how quickly your choices dwindle when you're trying just to look for a smaller home. A lot of those homes are bigger. So $1 million homes, it's not uncommon for sure to find one that's well over 5,000 square feet. It could be 6,000 square feet. In some cases, it could be more than that. And that is a lot of house. It's a lot of house if you're just 2 people. It's a lot of house if you're 4 people. You might use all of it, and that's completely up to you, but some people don't. And they think, I just don't want that much house. And so the only place, well, I wouldn't say the only place, but where you're gonna find most of your choices for smaller homes is going to be east of here, East Carmel. And you can also find them within this area. This is kind of the older part of Carmel, even though all of this around me right now is relatively new. Carmel's been around a long time, and there are homes that were built in the 60s and 50s and even 40s through here too. Those are all smaller homes. A lot of those homes are gone though, and they've been replaced with these newer homes that are 10 years old, sometimes a little older, sometimes a little bit newer, but much bigger. They have a big footprint on what was a pretty big lot. It's not as much anymore because you have this bigger home on it. So that leaves you with some of those East Carmel choices where a really big number of homes were built in the 80s or the 70s, in that range. And it's not like you can't find larger homes that were built in those decades of that vintage, but it's a little harder to find those homes. And then of course, once you do find those aren't for everybody. Now, I will say that they're pretty unique in a lot of ways. If you look at the front of them or if you look inside, you can find a tremendous number of differences and a lot of variety, which is pretty cool. It's outside of that cookie cutter feel, but it brings me into that third hurdle. So number 3 is that if you are looking for that new construction home, you want something brand new, it almost doesn't matter what price range you're looking in Carmel. It's actually fairly challenging to find a completely brand new home that nobody else has actually lived in. So it's not like new construction in Carmel doesn't exist. That's not the case at all. There's a really nice new construction neighborhood just to the east of where I am, off 126th Street, called Gramercy West. I really like that. We've had several clients that have built some homes in there. and even purchased homes that weren't brand new. Somebody else had lived in it, but we're talking about for a year or so. And that does happen. Somebody will build a home and then they have to sell it a year later because life changes happen. Lots of different reasons for that. It's nothing wrong with the home at all. It's just that their particular circumstance has changed and they have to move for whatever reason. So if you're looking in Carmel for new construction, all price ranges are available, definitely, but you're not going to find new construction just spread out over the whole of Carmel, or at least not very much. If you're looking over in East Carmel, you've got something like that, Gramercy West. You're looking over in West Carmel, you might have something like Ambleside. If you're looking here in Central Carmel, not much at all. There's an Epcon community just to the east of here, but that's an over 50 community. That's a cluster where you'll find a lot of new construction homes. Ambleside over to the west, you'll find a cluster of new construction homes. And then over there, like I said, at Gramercy West, cluster. But those neighborhoods are all pretty far along at this point, and they're closing them out. Outside of that, there aren't very many really big neighborhoods where all of the homes are new or they have lots available where you can build on those. Carmel is just running out of space. It is packed in. Carmel has Indianapolis to the south, it has Westfield to the north, it has Fishers to the east, and Zionsville to the west. So it's out of space. That northwest part of Carmel is about I wouldn't even say it's not developed. It is developed, but it's the least developed of all of Carmel. If you go really far to the east, that's been developed. Pretty much nearly 100% of the space available has been taken. And it doesn't mean in the future there won't be a new construction neighborhood that pops up here or there, because there are some larger plots of land, some old farms, things like that are buried in these little places in Carmel, but it's not going to be widespread. If you were to go, for example, just to the north, up to 146th Street, and look across the street, you're looking from Carmel into Westfield, it's just going to seem, at least in parts, especially as you get further west, wide open, like there's a lot of availability, and there is. So Westfield has lots of areas where you can get new construction. To the south in Westfield, to the north in Westfield, to the west and to the east. So you can kind of pick and choose, to some extent, where you would want to be in Westfield. In Carmel, for new construction, you're not going to get a pick and choose very much because the opportunity just isn't there. There just really isn't all that much to choose from. But you can still be reasonably close to the downtown area where I am right now. But walking distance, that's going to be extremely, extremely challenging unless you buy or find a one-off. So one of those older homes that have been torn down, you have a new construction home put right on top of it, and usually they're pretty sweet. Those opportunities don't pop up necessarily every single day. So these are things that I think you're going to find if you're just now starting your research. So 3 points that come up in conversations that we have quite often with people, and I think, again, you're going to find in your own research. You might find a little bit more, some of these hurdles, these difficulties in getting in to a place that meets any one of those criteria or even a combination of those criteria that's relatively close to the downtown area of Carmel. But we have different strategies for getting in, and everybody's strategy can look a little bit different based on their situation. So if you have questions about your needs, your strategies in particular, and exactly how you can do this, then reach out any ways you know how. We'll always have your back with those questions, and certainly have your back when it comes time for you to make your move anywhere in Carmel or the entire Indianapolis metro. And we'll catch you in the next one.